Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 17 of the Over
welcome
the
back
Head
to me.
podcast.
Welcome back to
I am
yourself.
back. We had a little tryout with Marcus Holman, and he was immediately fired after episode 16, so you'll not be seeing him ever again. Scott, we had a awesome weekend of games, and we are getting down. We are in the Final Four, heading into one of the most exciting weekends in lacrosse, and it was quite the show this past weekend. So, and you sound like you might be a little bit under the weather, and
I might be in the
hot
hot seat because
seat.
my nasally voice is going to be hard for everybody to listen to. I am sick, but let's also realize that I had a child. I didn't have a child. My wife had a child. Didn't miss an episode. Today, sick. Didn't miss an episode.
We had a
Kyle,
child.
comes and goes as he pleases. So even if I'm tough to listen to, credit to me for being a grinder, for being gritty, and for showing up to work even when things are not going my way. But I was telling you before we recorded, I'll finish on here. This is the new thing about fatherhood that I've learned. So when you get sick because you have a baby in the house, and it's obviously very dangerous, you don't want your baby to get sick. So like before in your life, like, you come down with a little head cold and you might get like some sympathy. Let me make you some soup, or let me help you feel better. Now it's just another thing that you've done wrong. So like if you if you like happen to accidentally get sick, you will just be criticized for getting sick and for putting your family at risk. So like it's just like it's a double down. Like it's like not only are you not feeling good, but then like you're also in trouble with mom because you've put the baby in jeopardy. So it's it's been a tough few days, but I'm soldiering on. Yeah, and I'm preparing you for what's to come. Like,
Awesome.
you have that baby, don't sneeze ever, or else you're gonna get scolded.
I'll just walk to the other room when I sneeze.
So, look, Marcus and I said it last week. The quarterfinal weekend is undefeated. It's always the best weekend in every tournament. Even remember playing it at like it's the hardest. It's just you get to Final Four weekend, anything can happen. In the first round, most games you have some idea of who the team, who the kind of team that's better is. Quarterfinal is just such a brutal round to get through. Like no matter, I mean, it's just everybody gets tested. It's all good teams. There's so much to play for because there is this like, and we'll talk about this with Syracuse, but like making it to Final Four weekend is an accomplishment. Like even if you don't get to national championship day, win it, like you pretty much brush off the haters at that point. If you get to play on Memorial Day, you get to go to the stadium, you get to play in front of 30,000 people, you're on ESPN main, like it's obviously not the end goal, but it is the big hump. Nobody, I think Quint like said it on the broadcast, like nobody remembers a quarterfinal loser. So it's just such a big round, and like what a weekend of games. I mean, couldn't have been better. Before we get into it and go through it game by game, what was your like one or two big storylines, big takeaways? What jumped out to you from quarterfinal weekend?
I mean, it's pretty cool to see, a team that's not normally right Final Fours, quarterfinals. I mean, it was really cool to see Richmond. I think that would, yeah, no.
Okay.
We'll get to them. But no, I think, you have touched on it and you've been kind of hitting on it all the last 16 weeks. I don't know how many times you've mentioned it, but, Coach Chamati over there has done a phenomenal job at Richmond. And I think that's the storyline to take away from all this. I think, they gave Cornell a scare regular season and then come back again. And when it matters most in the quarterfinals, like I was at work, but you guys were texting in the group thread and it was like 1 goal, Richmond was up. And then I was like, oh, are they going to do this? Cause if they would have pulled that off, that would have been insanity if they would have pulled that off. And they were very close to pulling it off, and hats off to them. I mean, what a season they put together. Obviously, you just said it. No one's going to remember them for losing a quarterfinal game. But at the end of the day, man, like I think Richmond was probably the biggest storyline to pull away from the entire lacrosse season and what he's been able to do with that program.
Like they didn't win any faceoffs. So like to play Cornell to a 1-goal game without winning any faceoffs and like giving that offense, so much ball dominance. They were just, I mean, it's been overstated, but there was just nothing fluky about it. Like guy for guy, they were right there. Their defense was so good. Just the sliding, recovering defensive coordinator, Paul Richards, played at Loyola. Dan Chamati coached at Loyola. So maybe some important ties to acknowledge there.
Greyhounds. Just rename
Might as
them the
well.
Richmond Greyhounds.
It was just really fun to watch. I mean, they're the only team both times. They're the only team this season that's been able to contain CJ Kirst, and I think that's something to look at. Like, it, are there lessons that can be learned? Is it just that they had the right personnel and they could cover him, or is it something that they did with him that Penn State, or either Cuse or Maryland, if it gets there, can emulate? Because I think they held him to 3 goals, which by his standards is like nothing in the first game, and then I don't know what his final stats were in this one, but yeah, but it
Two and
was like
two.
he
He was
just won.
2-2
He
in the
wasn't
game.
as efficient as you're used to seeing him, and he wasn't like a dominating factor. It was kind of the other cast of characters that really in that fourth quarter pulled Cornell along. So that's a great call out. I think for me, um, the big storyline, I mean, certainly just the 1-goal games, like, just, like, it's so good for lacrosse to just have that many amazing games if anybody's tuning in that hasn't watched it. I mean, how entertaining was that? And fourth quarter comebacks, I mean, there was multiple games where you felt like maybe one team was pulling away or putting it out of reach, and, there were plenty of comebacks, so I thought that kind of jumped out, and then, my old friend, nemesis, lover, I don't know what you call him, the Syracuse Orange. Can't get away from them, but they're just the most intriguing team to me because it's just like, what's happening? Like, what is this? And I mean, there was parts of it that were so bad, the goaltending and the defense, but then there were part of the offense was electric. And I don't know, you look at them and the way they figured out to win these 2 games. Um, they're the biggest question mark, kind of most exciting wild card, if you will, coming out of this round and going into the Final Four, where it's like in the same sentence you could say, how could you ever bet on them, and how could you ever bet against them? Like, it's just like they're so hard to figure out. So in a weekend of wild and like wonky games, they continue to stand above the rest as far as just being like such a uh, interesting team to follow and to try to predict and to try to bet on. But I'll tell you what, I'm loving the ride that the Orange have taken me on this year. And hey, they did it. They made it to Final Four weekend. I think back, Hearts, when we were talking about Clark, which of these ACC teams is most likely to get there? It was Duke, UNC, Cuse, and Notre Dame. He said Notre Dame. At the end of the day, your ACC tournament champs, the
Yeah.
Syracuse Orange from, is it Central New York
Yeah.
or is it upstate?
We're still debating.
Well,
Still under
they'll be in
debate.
Foxborough
Again,
this
we're gonna have
weekend.
we're gonna have to do a whole entire episode on that. But yeah, I think Richmond obviously, and then Cuse is Cuse back, right? This has been, I don't know when's the last time they made a Final Four. Was that when Marasco 2013?
2013.
So
Yep,
yeah, they're
2013.
in.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you can't, again, do you have to win a championship? But like,
Yeah.
you make the Final Four, for me, you're back. I mean, that's, and what, let's get into it game by game, because I think there's more to talk about. Like Penn State, I mean, that, like, Penn State is a
Yeah.
like consistent program now in terms of like showing up in quarterfinal and Final Four weekends. That was impressive.
Yeah.
So, want to just go in chronological order and get into it game by game and talk about the storyline. So you touched on Richmond; they were first. Um, what about Cornell? Is there any piece of you that leaves this game wondering if Cornell, like, Penn State beat them? Cornell quarterfinals and finals has to play, or quarterfinals and semifinals has to play the 2 teams that gave them the toughest games in the regular season. Richmond, who had only, lost to them by 1 in the regular season, and now Penn State, the only team to beat them in the regular season. Chink in the armor, like, do they look vulnerable to you, or was it more just quarterfinals are tough and actually is a positive that they were able to figure out a way to win and get through that game?
So Maryland plays Cornell. Cuse. Maryland plays
Cuse.
Cuse. Penn State, Cornell on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think whatever Richmond did, regular season, playing them to a 1-goal game and then doing that again. I mean, look at Cornell's entire season, right? The only teams that played them to tight games were Penn State and Richmond. So I think. Look, it could be, go back and rewatch those games. Did Cornell, leave some goals out on the field? Who knows? But like, yeah, at the end of the day, man, like these Final Four games are going to be, they're going to be lights out. They're going to be great. And I think, Penn State, you look at that game, I mean, versus Notre Dame. They're down 6 at it did not look good. I mean, going into halftime, it did not look good at all for them. I kind of like wrote them off, was like, Notre Dame is not, they've been here before. They have that, the veteran, just being there every year for the last 3 years. Didn't think they were going to give that one away, but Penn State, whatever John Hoss, Tambroni did at halftime, they went 6 straight. They just, every time they had the ball on the offensive end, they just put the ball in the back of the net. And guys like Trainer, who he just scored big goals when they need him to score big goals. So that was awesome to see. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. I think when me and you picked last week, I forget what we picked in the Final Four. I know I took Duke and I think I took Duke and Ohio State, so that's -2 for me right off the rip there. So I'm not looking good heading into the Final Four. But yeah, man.
All right, but bring it back. Let me reel you back into
Yeah.
Cornell here, though. What are they? Are they almost losing to Richmond? Are they vulnerable?
Yes.
Or are they stronger because they figured out how to win a 1-goal game? Like, you look at them as being the same level of national championship favorites as we would have coming into the NCAA tournament after getting a scare like that against Richmond.
I think they're a favorite. I also think, in these games, they're going to be closer, obviously, with just what's at stake. But man, I just don't see how you bet against Cornell. They've been doing it consistently all year. Cursed, as you said, he had 4 points in this game. He's had consistently 5 to 6 points each game. It sounds like you need to limit him to, a point or two and you win the game. But I just don't know how you do it. And his stat line, he had 10 GBs, 3 calls turnovers. He was an absolute.
Yeah. The 10 ground balls number is insane for
and
an
he had 3.
attackman. For anybody, that's an insane
Yeah.
number. Outside of maybe a face-off guy, even still, that's a good day.
Yeah, and he had.
I need to call back something real quick. Marcus and I talked about who his game is like, and I've gotten some feedback, comparing him to Marcus is brutal. Marcus is 5'11", 180. Kirsch is 6'2",
I forgot you said that. When you said that, I
215.
was like,
But that was not as bad of a take as Marcus comparing him to Paul Rabel. What about his game is Paul? And I didn't call Marcus out on that. I'll take it that maybe lefty Marcus isn't a great comparison. Paul Rabel's an even worse comparison. Will Manny came in the group text and said Brendan Mundorf. That's the best one I've heard.
That's a pretty good
Big,
take.
lumbering lefty. Mundy's in the top 5 all time in goals. That stylistically, I didn't realize CJ Kirsch was that big, man. He's a big boy. He's
a big boy.
I feel like all lacrosse players these days, these kids just keep getting bigger and bigger.
I mean, 13 shots, 10 ground balls, 3 calls turnovers. In the ride, man, he is a menace in the ride. You can just tell, watching it, obviously can't hear what he's saying when you're watching the game, but him just looking back behind him, and he's just doing this, directing guys behind him, looking to his left, directing guys behind him, then turnover. So that's going to be part of his game, I think, in the PLL. When we watch him in the pros, is just attackman that can ride, man. I love watching, Marcus is very good at it. The Kavanaughs are very good at it, but attackman that can ride, man.
Yeah.
You leave you limit him to 2 goals, but he had 3 calls turnovers in the ride. Then some of those, one of them led to a goal.
10 ground balls. I had a coach in college that used to say 3 ground balls equals a goal because you score on 30% of possession. So you 10 ground balls, it's another 2 goals you could kind of add to his stat sheet by just saving possessions that way. So here would be my note on Cornell coming out of this. If there's a vulnerability there, their defense and their goaltending, they outpossessed the shit out of Richmond. And Richmond was significantly more efficient. Now, with Cornell's offense, the lack of efficiency didn't make me as nervous. One, I think Richmond's defense is very good. I think their goalie was hot. I think they hit some pipes, and at the end of the day, if you're generating that number of shots, you live with it. More times than not, that's gonna translate to goals for them. The defense and the goaltending are a bigger concern for me. If they, because even if that game were 50-50 at the face-off X, they might have lost by 5. They were not getting many stops. There were some soft goals let in, from a shot perspective. So
Cornell won 18.
There
Cornell
is a
won
chink
18
in the armor,
face-offs, and then Richmond won 10. So they had 8 more first possessions.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a chink in the armor, it's that. I mean, even go back to the Ivy League championship game, you give up 15 goals in a win. I'm not sure that they're super solid there. And I think Penn State's good enough to take advantage of that. I think definitely if you do run into Maryland in the championship and you play a team that's not gonna just let you get a ton of possessions, like that would be the one thing is like they're gonna need good goaltending, they're gonna need good defensive scheming because I'm not sure that they're really quite as strong on that side of the field as they are on offense. And I think it almost came back to bite them. I mean, it just seemed like Richmond they wouldn't have the ball for 4 minutes, they'd get it and then they'd
Yeah.
score. Like it's so that's one to watch. I definitely wouldn't pick against them against Penn State in the quarterfinals or in the semifinals. I think there's a little bit of a revenge factor, like with Penn State, and they kind of already had that team on the ropes. They were up by 4 goals in that regular season game. Like to me, this feels like a game where Cornell's like, okay, we just got through our scare. There's going to be a jolt of energy. We owe these guys one. We know we had them. Like I think things line up well for them in that game. But if it's Maryland in the finals, like that one's going to be harder for me to pick. And we'll talk about Maryland. But I want to see something out of Cornell in the cage and on defense because that worries me a little bit. And like the Ivy League. I mean, we could get to Princeton, but like their defense got by in the Ivy League because they could just score 30 goals on everybody because apparently all Ivy League defenses are absolutely trash.
Yeah. And it seems like
so
and it seems like, you know, when Kirst has a quiet, I mean, I think 4 points is obviously still good, but still quiet for him as he's been averaging like 6. But like when he's limited per se, Goldstein, right? He was 4 and 2. It seems like when Goldstein has no point, like limited points, Kirst has like 7. And when Kirst has low points, Goldstein has 7, which
yeah,
is
they're great. And
good
you
to
know what's
have.
funny is like they play so well together. And who's like Goldstein's incredible. This isn't I don't mean this to be negative on him, but like who's like an upgraded version of him is
Yeah.
Sowers, who Kirsch will likely go play with on the Water Dogs, like just like little jitterbug attackman that can draw slides and kind of do everything. He's also a menace in the ride. He made some great plays. There was one play where I think he ran up to he like chased the defenseman down, stripped him, picked up the ball, ran down in transition, then tried to throw like a left-handed like 40-yard behind the back skip pass that just got intercepted and like taken the other way. And they were like, the broadcasters were like, I don't know if Coach Busick's gonna like that one. I don't know how Busick would handle this, but for me, to have the gumption to try that weak-handed behind the back 40-yard skip pass, like I'd honestly like get in the huddle and be like, you know what, like fuck it, yeah, you were trying to make a play, like
Yeah.
sure, like don't if you do that 15 times,
Yeah.
you know, no, but like you could just tell he was feeling himself, like he rode the ball back and he just tried the most
It's like
absurd behind the back skip. We
a
clip
Owen
it up,
Hiltz fuck
but
you pass, you know, same thing.
yeah, every pass that Owen Hill throws is like that, but yeah, it was just like so
Someone's catching it or is
ridiculous.
going
Like
fucking 50 yards out of bounds.
when I was a rookie in the MLL, like Ryan Boyle was like the scariest dude. Like I'm going to go to a whole sidebar story here. My first ever game in the MLL, I get there, we were playing in Denver, and I'm sitting in the locker room and I like put headphones on, right? And I'm like listening to a song and like I hear a coach say like, "Hey, all right, bring it up." And like before it couldn't have been 5 seconds from when he said that. I was like pressing pause on my music on my phone to take my headphones off. Boyle like looks at me, he's like, "Take your fucking headphones off." Oh shit, okay. Like so like he was just like that guy, obviously the best guy in the world, but he was fucking intense. I remember one time we were later in that season, we were eliminated from the playoffs, and I had seen Joel White score this goal from behind the cage where he dove across the back of the crease and like backhand flung it in with his long pole, and I was like, "Fuck, I really want to try that someday." Like, so we're like out of playoff contention. It's the end of the year. I come running down the field. I'm being chased. I like, kind of have a chance to do that. I send it, dive, throw it. Like I don't know if I hit the goalie in the chest or the ball like flew out, but I like slid on my chest, saw that it was a turnover, and I got up and I looked like Boyle and I just made eye contact right away, and I thought he was gonna be like, "What the fuck, rat?" And he just kind of gave me like one of these like he kind of just gave me a little shrug, like, "Yeah, all right." Like that was so ridiculous, and I actually just respect that you tried it. That's how I felt about that skip pass.
I was so another one. Fuck you, pass was ago when Eric Martin, 2010 national team. They're playing Duke. I want to say it was a tie game, and I was at Matt Soria's house with his dog Kenny on the couch. We were both watching the game. Eric Martin's running down the field, fast break. So point attackman's on his left side. He's left-handed, obviously running down the field, and you can just see him looking as he's going down. He just puts his stick on his right side and tries to throw an around-the-world pass to Powell. Ryan Powell sitting right at the point. It's a perfect fast break. You just throw it to Ryan Powell. It's a goal. Brendan Mundorf's an attack. and he throws the ball around the world on the run. It goes like fucking 20 feet over his head out of bounds, and then they lose the game. And then apparently Pressler had a conversation with him, but I'm going to clip that highlight up for that. But that was a fucking fuck you pass if I've ever seen one.
That they were playing Duke, was that wasn't the year they were playing Denver, because I
Mm-mm.
remember they lost. Didn't they lose to? They
That was
lost to
Duke.
Duke.
I'm pretty sure it was overtime.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that play there would have won him
yeah.
the game, I think. And he just was around the world, throw it over his head.
But like there's when you see a guy that I again, it can't be a habit, but when you got special players, like, you
Yeah,
gotta let them every now and then. So anyway, funny pass. We should find it and clip it up, because it was just like when he threw it, I was like, wait, what? Like, and it just went right to the Richmond player, just caught it right in the middle of the
yeah,
field. But anyway, so look, great game. Shout out to the Spiders. Like, they're here to stay. If one of these big schools doesn't come poach Shimani, like, what the fuck are you
yeah.
doing? Like, that some of the stories that came out too about, like, they just became fully funded 2 years ago. He's been there 12 years. 6 times they've won the conference and made the NCAA tournament. Twice they lost in the first round in 1-goal games. Now they've won a first round game. They lost in a 1-goal game in the quarterfinals. 2 years of fully funded, of having a full allotment of scholarship. Now he's got all 12 and a half scholarships, plus he has the visibility of recruits seeing, what they just accomplished. Like, that program is going to continue to get better and better. It's a great school. It's like Mid-Atlantic. It's really well located to recruit from the South and the
I've never
Northeast.
been to
Like,
that campus.
it,
No clue what there is to offer there.
I mean, Richmond's just kind of a small city, but the school's like good in a lot of sports. They've got football. They've got great facilities, a great stadium. Like, there's a lot to like there. So they're gonna, and they generally should keep winning their conference. And he does a great job of scheduling the opposite of Army. Like, he schedules a non-conference slate that, you're gonna play all the big dogs all season long, and that's why you see them in the NCAA tournament, and they don't look shell shocked against UNC or against Cornell, because they've played these teams all year long. And then when they played their conference games, they kicked the shit out of them. So credit to them, but also credit to Cornell. Um, you found your way through. Like, that's it. That's why I just keep going back to, like, I probably will bet them against the spread against Penn State, because I just think there's almost like a sense of relief that comes from winning that game and surviving that moment, where it's like, I expect them to show up and play pretty free in the quarterfinal or in the semifinal. I think that was a scare.
Yeah.
So should we go? The second game was what? Syracuse Princeton.
Princeton. High scoring
You want to kick
game.
us
It
off
seemed
here?
like an MLL scored 19-18, 19-18 game. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see is Joey Spallina playing on Hofstra Field. That kid, in Lizard's locker room when he
Yeah.
was, tiny, just watching him play wall ball, catch with his brothers, with his dad Joe. That was pretty cool to see him play on that field. I think that was the first time he's played on Hofstra's field. I don't know if, yeah, that had to be the first time he's played on it since then, but that was pretty cool to see.
No. They lost to Cornell on that field earlier this year, didn't they?
No, that was Nassau. Remember, that was at like some.
I didn't catch it because it was on Corrigan Sports Network or whatever. But catching it, was new as
Yeah,
Long
but
Island somewhere.
so that was really cool to see. The field he
Yeah.
grew up on, being around us in that locker room, and just I thought that was pretty cool to see. And he showed out, man. Like, there's been a lot of this about the Cuse. We've been saying some stuff, but I think they've just been all year. You just don't know what team's going to show up, and I don't think anyone can argue with us there. And when them winning this game's huge, right? Them getting back to a Final Four is huge. I think if they lose this game, it's a huge disappointment, right? I think now maybe that was like, the monkey off their back, the weight off their shoulders. And now when we go into this Final Four game, you're going to see the Cuse of old. I mean, I hope so, but like,
No,
you don't think it's
no.
coming?
Both these 2 wins have been
Yeah.
gross. Like, it's not, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, and maybe that does speak to how good they are, but like, the Harvard game, they had no business winning, and they found a way. Credit to them. And then in this game, their defense was fucking awful. The goalie literally couldn't save a beach ball, and they find a way through. Now, again, good teams, great teams, like, you find a way to win ugly. But like, we cannot. I do not expect some different version of them to show up to the semifinals. Like, they're gonna be who they are. That's who they are. You don't necessarily know what part of the game is going to be a complete disaster, but there has not been one game yet this year where they've like put it all together. And you can keep saying, well, that could come if they put it all together. They might be the best team in the country. Like if they get the goaltending and the D play that they had in the ACC tournament, and then they get the offensive performance that they had in the fourth quarter of Harvard and then all through the Princeton game, they might be the best team in the country. But there has not been one game this season where all of that has shown up at the same time, and it's so strange to me. And I have more to go in on with them, but let's start first with the losers. Have I ever been more right about a team than I was about the Princeton Tigers all year
Pound
long?
sign.
Like they just didn't
Yeah.
have it. It was the je ne sais quoi. They didn't have it. Like their defense was not good, and Cuse had more
Yeah.
it when they needed it to kind of find a way to win that game. Princeton just again, like they were so solid. They were such a good team, senior led, great offense. Like, but they just every time they had a chance in the regular season to beat a really good team, they didn't. You know, and it was Cornell twice and it was Maryland. I mean, it's not like, but like that was the thing I kind of kept going back to. That was my concern with them. And then, yeah, I mean, credit to them for they fought and they made this interesting. But at the end of the day, like Mackesy breaks Jesse Hubbard's points. Like, there's a lot of great things from this program, this team to take away. But like, they are the epitome of the quarterfinal team nobody's going to remember. Like, they had a great season, and at the end of the day, like, you don't really have much to show for it. We're talking about hot seat. I don't know who the defensive coordinator is there, but like, what a mismatched like offense to defense scenario there. That
I mean,
was
19, 18
that was
goals.
tough to
That's
watch.
both teams. That's just a
It's
shitload of
it's
goals.
it should never
Shitload
happen.
of goals.
Like, that's what, like, the Gates used to do to teams in the early '90s, but, like, good teams in the NCAA tournament in the last 10, 15 years, like, you give up 8 goals and you win. You don't you don't win games where you give up 15 plus goals. It's a big red flag for me for both of them. Like, it's just, like, again, credit to Cuse for finding a way to win, but, like, how can you
And
feel great about that
and
game?
what the hell is up with
Like
Cuse calling timeouts when they don't need to call timeouts? They called a timeout with like 30 seconds left. They're like running the ball out. It's like timeout. It's like, all right, let's give them time to double the ball here. It's like, what are
it's such a there's such a roller coaster ride. Like, it's can't miss TV, watch them play, but it's just like, what the fuck is going on with this team? Like,
they
they
pulled their
they
goalie?
they do
They
the
pulled McCool with the other kid had 4 minutes, so he played the last 4 minutes of the game. Their backup did. I saw,
yeah, I mean, you might as well have
but
just
what at that
put
point?
another short stick D midi in the game and just left the left the cage completely open because they weren't saving shit. Like, it was like, I mean, neither side was. It was ridiculous. Everything that was flew at the cage went in. Like, it's just
Should have went to the Coliseum Deli and put
it's
a
just like
chicken
hard.
cutlet sandwich in the goal. Would have been better. God.
And I felt the same way about the Cornell Princeton uh Ivy League final. Like, you shouldn't be having 20 to 15 games in conference tournaments. Like, that's not like I know it's the shot clock era and this and that, but like, that's concerning to me. Like, that's not good defense or like complementary lacrosse. Like, which again we'll get into when we talk about Maryland, but like, it's not just your defense is terrible, but also like, you're not owning possession at all if you're giving up that many goals. Like, like, Maryland is a tough matchup for Cuse because it's like they're the exact opposite in every way.
Yeah.
Like, they play so disciplined, they play so patient. Cuse is going to have to play more efficient on offense, and they're going to have to find some goaltending and some defense, or they're not going to stand a chance. Like, the weakness of Maryland is their offense. So you've got to be able to take advantage of that. Like, you have to get stops and grind out a game and hope that you can get to 12 and win 12-11 or 12-10 or something like that. Like, there's no way you're going to go and score 18 goals against Maryland. And again, unless it's something that we haven't seen. So that like, would I be shocked if we turn it on next weekend and Cuse, wins 18-14 and be like, no, like, it wouldn't shock me, but it just doesn't feel like the way they've won so far is the recipe for success in the Final Four. But maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
And queue up the face off. Whoever has a consistent face off guy obviously helps in those weekends, and that'll be something to key in on. Maybe we'll have to call in our face off specialist Jerry Raganese before this weekend starts. But yeah,
Maybe we will. So the other thing that came out of this was Joey Spallina's interview after the game, where he called out all the haters, of which there are many, and he highlighted two things. One, we can't win a big game, and two, people say I can't dodge. Now, I've had some people. Look, I would not be so bold to assume he's talking about me or us or this show. I think up there in the Syracuse lacrosse world, there's plenty of different media members and forums and whatever. I had some people texting me saying, you were talking about this on last week's episode. I said that he doesn't dodge, right? I think I've
Which are
been
two completely different things, and probably maybe taken out of context. They're two different things.
because he definitely can
Yeah.
dodge, and that was kind of my whole point in the Harvard game was like you're not dodging when they need you to put pressure on the defense as a scorer, and also that's going to make him a better feeder. He did
Yeah.
that in this game. Like he went and got his own, and then like you look late in the fourth quarter, a couple times he's bounce dodging, and he's got multiple eyes, and Hiltz is cutting, and he's throwing feeds. So I'm going to say I've said it 15 times this season. I'm going to say it again. I love his game. Like every time he passes the ball, it's right on the ear. He's physical. I think I love the way he gets the ball out of his stick for like a ball dominant attackman. A lot of times, especially earlier in their career, the criticisms will be like hold the ball too long. He doesn't do that. Like when the right pass is the adjacent pass, he makes it. I've been saying this all year long. If I did have a criticism, especially out of that Harvard game, it would be like I think he needs to. And if they're going to beat Maryland, now he's going to have Shaler. That's a tough matchup. But like he's got to dodge for himself. Like he's got to show that if you don't pay attention, if you don't get eyes to him, he's going to score. And then once he gets those eyes, all of a sudden, like his feeding game opens up, and it opens up everything for their offense. So, like, good job to him. And then also, like, everybody's like talking about that interview. I like it, man. When they got their ass kicked in the dome by UNC, I was saying Petro was the only one out there that brought any fucking flavor and like fire. And so if like to see that out of Joey, like from a leadership standpoint, to just be like, fuck everybody, we're in the Final Four, like, the criticisms of Gate we've made of the program, of like, good for you. Like you get your moment, you should be like, you and I'd be doing the same thing. Like
F everybody.
you find anybody or anything. Yeah, like
Fuck
them. We're here. We did it. Like, what are you gonna say
Yeah.
now? So I kind of love that out of him, and this team is just they're captivating.
And speaking of him,
I'm drunk on Q's
speaking of him
cross.
dodging, like the couple of dodges we saw, like setting GLE picks for him to get top side, and he kind of like posts up, and then he got a slide, and he was shooting and scoring like that. But it'll be interesting to see what Maryland does with that. If they're gonna, I bet you they jump out on it, get a piece of it, double picks, because Princeton wasn't doing that. They were trying to just maintain their matchup, and it gave them some issues. But
what was Princeton doing?
They just, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing
On defense.
Couldn't tell you.
Like, dude, like ball watching, not sliding, but not covering their guy. It was tough. Also, just on a sidebar, like how hard am I to listen to right now? I can't even I can't breathe.
Maybe with
I can't hear
modern
anything.
technology, maybe Jay Mills can make you sound like someone else. We'll be fine.
Last night I tried Afrin. You ever use that?
Yeah, the spray.
Oh, it just I hated it. It cleared the nostrils, but then it was like my entire I think I used too much. Like it was like everything was burning. Like I couldn't sleep. Oh, dude, brutal.
All right,
brutal. And then I'd cough. And then, anyway, wake the baby.
Going to the last game. Any other final thoughts on Syracuse heading in?
No. I mean, look, I don't know if I'm gonna pick them. We can get to that.
We're gonna have to read picks. I think all my picks are
Maryland
gone.
Maryland is the fan. I've got the Terp ties, but I don't want to stop watching Q's play lacrosse. They're just so I'm upstate rat. I'm all in on with this Q's team. Whatever it's gonna be, I'm strapped in on the ride with them. Let's go. Let's figure out a way to win another absurd game.
All right, heading into Notre Dame and
Sunday.
Penn State. What were your takes? What were your takes away from this one?
Well, I shared it with you. I think my big takeaway is I just am really happy for the Notre Dame players who, for the last couple of years, haven't had time to go vacation in the Hamptons and Nantucket before their summer internships start in the city. And that's had to have been hard on them. They go straight into the season, and then they got to go report to their jobs the following Tuesday. this year they'll get that week off. They'll be on the shore. They'll be, up in Nantucket or out on the Cape. And after 2 long, long seasons, I think it was only fair that Notre Dame finally got some time to go to the beach a little bit earlier
Yeah,
in May.
speaking of internships, Devin McClain for Notre Dame was it Bank of America? He was missed the whole entire fall, and then the kid from Darien, Connecticut, I think he was starting down there at attack, and then Devin kind of worked his way in there, but yeah, man, he had a hat trick. But back to Bank of America.
Back to Bank of America. We give them shit, like credit to them. They didn't have a great season, and they show up, they beat Ohio State, and then they were right there. Like, they played their best across in the tournament, which you knew that's what they were gonna do. That's what
Yep.
champions do, and they are champions, and we can poke fun, but, like, the truth is, and I've said this, like, warriors on that team, like Kavanaugh, um, and Jake Taylor, like, obviously are the 2 that kinda stand out legacy-wise. But, the D. Mitty Randall, right, as well. I mean,
Faison, like last year for them looked like he got more production. This year, he was like looked like it was a bit of a down year for him. I don't know what that was
yeah,
about,
yeah.
but
The that's a different topic, but, like, the guys who play 2
it's crazy.
sports, generally, there seems to be a little bit of a tail off, like, or they don't keep playing it. Like, I just think at a certain point that's gonna
Yeah, it's
wear you
crazy he
down.
plays. I mean, I
Like,
could imagine
you
playing D1 football at that level and
you
then
do it
playing
you
D1
do it
lacrosse at that
freshman
level.
year.
It's
Yeah, and,
crazy.
like, he also is like he was, like, one of the main weapons in their offense, which had a long
Yeah,
season. So, like, how are you supposed to be emotionally
invested in that.
as invested and also, like, physically healthy coming out of a football season at that level? So, yeah, and then, like, you don't have your stick in the hands all
Yeah,
fall, like the rest of those guys do. So, like, it's not shocking to me that he wasn't quite as effective, because he definitely wasn't. He was very much kind of a role player. But look, that program's obviously not going anywhere. They'll reload. I like giving them shit, 1, because it's Notre Dame, like, but 2, just, like, it's good to see somebody else have a
yeah.
breakthrough. Like, that was a pretty dominant, almost 3-year stretch that they put on. And I was texting you when it was 12-6, like, is this gonna happen
Yeah.
again? Like, are they just about to fucking run through the tournament again? So, a ton of credit to Corrigan, to that team, and, like, the Kavanaugh legacy. Is there another one? Are they done?
Is there a younger one? I don't know. I have no clue. But that name,
I don't
yeah, I
think
mean, but
so.
their legacy is stamped, right? You bring up Notre Dame lacrosse, I think it's going to be tough for you not to just think about the name Kavanaugh, right? Younger brother Matt, or I'm sorry, older brother Matt, losing to Duke in the final, like that's crazy to have all your siblings go to the same school and be that dominant as lacrosse players.
All but one. There was one Kavanaugh that
Hofstra
played at,
played at
like,
Hofstra. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But to have a core group of your family go to the same school and 2 of them got to play together and win a national championship together, that's
Yeah, I mean, there's
pretty
3 there
crazy.
you could this argument could be made that they're the 3 best attackmen ever in Notre
Yeah.
Dame history. I don't like, maybe we're missing somebody in there, but, like, I mean, Pat, for sure. I mean, I'd say actually, like, probably for
Yeah.
sure,
I'd
they're the
say,
3 best
yeah,
ever.
it's
Like, that's fucking
yeah,
cool.
very cool. I mean,
Credit to
the
them.
only other
Congrats.
brothers that played, at the same school like that would be the Gates and the Pals. I don't know, the Stanwicks, obviously, 2 of them went to Hopkins.
Oh,
Still,
no, I
yeah.
mean, the
Thompsons,
Thompsons.
yeah, Thompsons, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's lots of the brothers, but certainly in Notre Dame history, those guys they're the dudes, and
Yeah,
that was a crazy run.
and they
So
look
Penn State.
yeah. But let me touch on Notre Dame first because they looked like they were going to run away with this one when we were texting about that. And then one play of the
Yeah,
game that they went on their run. Sean Light was off ball. They tried to skip a ball through it. He knocked it down, picked it up. I didn't know the big boy could get down the field in transition. Doesn't look like he's moving fast, but no one could catch him. He was just gone. Hit Kavanaugh at the point. Kavanaugh caught the ball moving across goal, back of the net. That is going to, we've talked about him, in the PLL, how great he's going to be, but the big boy needs to get down the field more. He's got some game in transition. I mean, he threw an absolute rope just across his body, hit Kavanaugh right in his stick. It's like, why don't you get down the field a little bit more, big guy?
yeah. Well, he's only a
Yeah.
sophomore, so that like feels like that stuff will come. Like when he kind of steps into owning, like being the best
Yeah.
player on the
He's got to
field.
shoot the shit out of the ball
Because
too,
yeah,
how big he is. I just want to, he came down, no one picked him up. I'm like, please shoot it. Please shoot it. Please shoot it.
So the story of this game was Matt
Yeah.
Trainer. And we had talked a little bit before the show about this, but like Aiden Carroll and Matt Trainer, if you were looking at the PLL draft again, and here I am, we're gonna make more Spalina enemies, and you're Joe Spalina, the GM for the Redwoods. Does do we still think that McAdory and Sam English look like the second and third overall picks compared to Aiden Carroll and Matt Trainer, who were even in like that loss? Aiden Carroll, and we'll get to this game. Any chance he get, he buried it in the back of the net, and he's just so dynamic, dodging like midfield dodger, can dodge from behind, can shoot with both hands. And then Matt Trainer was just like, "Yep, put the team on my back." 6 goals, all the big goals late in the game. He is fucking good. Like I just that if the draft were today, I'd be shocked if at least one of those two didn't go. Like Sam English is kind of a different thing with being a two-way player. The Redwoods do already have Brian Tevlin, who is kind of almost like the exact clone of Sam English in that regard. I don't know. There was like I don't necessarily like. I think McAdory is going to be a better pro than he was in college because I think he can be himself. He can be an athletic mid, draw slides, move the ball. Like so like this really isn't really like saying I don't think he's good. I think he's really good and super athletic. I like his game, but Matt Trainer and Aiden Carroll right now outside of Kirst look like the second and third in whatever order best offensive players in college across to me. And Matt Trainer took this fucking game over in the third quarter and the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, he was 6-1. If you're Pressler, I mean, you're loving that pick that they got him in the first round, but they're midfield now, right? You got Miles Jones, he's 6 whatever, Trainer's 6'2". They got a big midfield, the Atlas do. So it'll be interesting to see how they gel.
What I think word on the street that Dox Aiken might be like playing football.
That's what I heard. If they have, I mean, if it's Dox Aiken, Trainer, Miles Jones, Costabile.
But that makes this even a better pick though. Like if you don't have Dox, you just get another big fucking skilled midi to stick in there. Like he just a great pick and like I'm so impressed with Penn State. So their goalie play like hasn't been great all year. What do they call it? Jack Frack,
yeah.
Right? He has had a really good career and a little bit of a down year. Now he played great in the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So like he's one to be on like, could he get hot, at the right time watch? But it just looks like a program who like so I felt the same way about Aiden Carroll. Where these guys get me is in these post game interviews. Like I just like you see their faces and they're like so young, but then they're so fucking intense and focused. Like you forget. I mean, pro lacrosse, pro sports in general, Kyle, is just not the same. Like you just don't have that level of like. There's been 4 years where this has been my entire life, and this is the end of my last year. And like they all become little parrots of their head coaches, who are all like the most intense dudes ever, anyway. And so you see like these captains taking these interviews, just like echoing the shit that their coach is going to say, like, we're not done yet, and we talk about team and family and sacrifice. And like Matt Trainer was like that. He's just so intense, but then he's also so big that I'm just like, that's a 5-star. I don't know what he was as a recruit, but like that's a 5-star looking recruit. Like it used to be like ACC and Notre Dame got these guys, and now it's like Penn State clearly they're recruiting very, very well year after year, from Grant to Mac O'Keefe to to the kid who TJ Malone, and now this kid. Like it seems like they have a Wharton finalist type offensive player on that team every year. And they deserve a ton of credit for the program. Tambroni deserves a ton of credit, and Haas there for what they've been able to do.
I mean, 8-3 at half. I was like, when I was watching that game, I was like, whoever comes out at halftime making adjustments is obviously going to win the game. But whatever Haas and Tambroni said to the offense at halftime, and I don't know how much leeway Tambroni gives Haas. I mean, I'm pretty sure he probably gives him a lot. So the adjustments that he made, whatever he said to them, like there was one play where like they caught the ball behind the back pass, moved it one more, behind the back shot. When that went the back of that, I was like, oh damn, they're playing with some swagger. This is that's the Penn State offense that we've been looking for. But to be down that much to a Notre Dame, like if you're down to a team like a shitty team you just didn't play getting off the bus, but like going at half down 8-3 to Notre Dame, the defending champs, that is seeing that. Seeing them come back in the fashion that they did, that's ballsy what they did. And in the fashion they did it, they shut out Notre Dame in the fourth quarter, which is pretty absurd to do.
And they went to that zone, right? They went to that zone defense, which
Cornell did it too to Richmond in the final timeout.
Cornell came out of the final timeout. Like that is again just a well coached
Yeah.
team. When you don't play zone and you have that much confidence to go to it in that moment,
You've worked
that's
on
I
it.
mean, Richmond didn't even get off a shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it worked so well, and it worked really well for Penn State. Notre Dame kept trying to feed the ball inside to McLean and to Taylor, and that zone was just collapsing on it, and they weren't even sniffing it. So they're really like again, I cannot overstate how impressive like this program has become, how good Trainer is. I just think it's almost like if Cornell had just beaten them by 4 in the regular season, I'd probably be like, look, frisky Penn
Yeah.
State. But the fact that they did lay that egg in the first half, like I go back to my points I was making last weekend. They are capable of laying an egg. Like they just showed us they did it, and then there's this kind of there has to be this narrative in the Cornell locker room of like, fuck, we already gave one away to these guys. Like we know how to beat them, we know how to get them against the ropes, and then we just have to finish them in a way that we did last time we played them. I brought this up when they played the regular season, but like Tambrody coached Busick, so there's a little bit of like a big brother in like kind of environment between those two. I, oddly, this is the semifinal I feel more confident picking.
Really?
I just think, I just think they're like again really impressive. Like I don't want to say anything negative, but like I just don't think they've got the I don't think they've got the juice to get over the Cornell hump. And I think these weird X factors of the payback from the one regular season loss, like I just see it playing in Cornell's favor more than I see it playing in Penn State's favor. So I think great run, but for me, this is where it ends for this version of the Nittany Lions. But
Yeah,
I've been wrong before.
I was gonna say
Rare,
this
but
game was gonna be like the 1-goal overtime game, and then the Maryland Cuse game was gonna be like a shootout, but like Maryland's gonna win by 2 or 3.
But like Maryland doesn't shoot out like Maryland. Like so, okay, so we can come back to it. We should get to kind of the Maryland Georgetown game
Yeah.
now because I think we can talk about it. But like that was Maryland lacrosse. They slowed the game down. They had long ass possessions. They found enough goals, and then you want to talk about hot seat. Your criticism of McNady all season long at number one, like he was the X
How many
factor in the fourth
he had
quarter.
like 9
Kyle,
saves.
it's not, but
Yeah.
yeah, but like you always do this to like watch the game. Like he doesn't have a ton of saves because they play smart. They control possession. They don't give up a lot of shots. And in the fourth quarter, he was just catching the ball. Like every shot, like he was just catching it. Great outlet passes, clears that were leading to goals. Tillman talks about it, but like it's the big save. Like it's the timing of the saves he makes. And like, I mean, the exact opposite of all these other games. Like that's what a Final Four defense and like discipline team looks like. Like they just suffocated Georgetown. And they took away they took away Carroll with Shaler. Like we probably haven't talked about how good he is enough. Like he's a legitimate stud number one defensive player. And their offense plays complementary lacrosse. Like it's the anti-Cuse. Like it's like we're not like, yeah, we don't have a Joey Spallino. We don't have an Owen Hiltz. But like we don't just piss the ball away ever. And like the amount of times they pass up shots that are like, ooh, and just don't take it and get the exact same shot, but they get it 10 seconds left of the shot clock instead of 40 seconds left of the shot clock. It's just so impressive how disciplined they are. And they just have so many different guys that they are capable of getting a bucket. So the thing that scares me about them is like their offensive firepower. Like they're the one team in the Final Four that doesn't have a star player on offense, right? You got Joey and Hiltz on Cuse. You got certainly Trainer on Penn State, and you got, I mean, too many to count, right, on Cornell, but obviously Kirsch being the leader of the crew. Like, if Maryland's going to have downfall, it's going to be a game like this with Georgetown, except for, the other team's offense can find a couple more. Like, I don't see a scenario where Maryland's giving up 16, 18 goals or something like that. But if this Cuse offense can find a way to 13 to 12, and then McCool and the defense shows up the way they did in the ACC championship, that to me is the recipe, to get past this Maryland team because, you can have 8 different goal scorers, but if they all have one goal, like, who on that team's going to give you 3? Who on that team's going to give you 4? Going to give you a goal when you really need it late in the game? Like that wasn't obvious from this Georgetown game.
And the Maryland defense, right, coached by Jesse Bernhardt. I think, you know, there was a point in the game where Tillman in that damn fucking that iPad, but yeah,
He's on the iPad way too much.
there should be like a shot clock on the iPad. You know, like the NFL, the coach can talk to the line or the defensive captain or whatever, and they
Yeah,
shut the
right.
fucking thing off. That iPad should be there. Should be like a kill switch at I don't know.
He doesn't even watch the game. Like the ball will go to the other end of the field. He's just over here looking at the like the iPad. Like he watches the game on like tape
But the
delay.
first,
like he, you know, like it's happening, and then he watches it 30 seconds behind when it's happening.
But the first time I've
strange.
seen in a lacrosse game, they come out of a time or Georgetown calls a timeout. They draw up their play, do whatever. They come out as soon as Maryland sees what formation they're in and where players are where. Maryland calls a timeout and they go to the huddle and they're on the fucking iPad. Bernhardt and Tillman are on the fucking iPad and they're like, oh, they're running this play that they ran, whatever. And that was the first time I've seen that because NFL teams do that. Like a big point of the game, they'll call a timeout. It's a fourth down play. They need to score. Fourth down play.
The broadcasters did a good job of talking about this. Like I think they mentioned that in football they've changed the rules, or at least in college football, to where you can't do that anymore. You can't call a timeout after a timeout. So like they called it out on the broadcast because you're exactly right. It was like, it was this again. It was like, this is what it reminded me of Cornell coming out in zone. It's just like one of these moves of like, this is what teams who are ready
Does he
to be
have,
here
and then the other thing I want to know about that fucking iPad, is it clipped up? Does he have sections on like, is it like plays?
This is where
somebody clipping that shit up.
This is where I feel like Adam Gittleman could come on here and talk to us because the score break, what they use, it's fucking good. Like they could download that shit and get it clipped and up there very fast.
So like maybe there's somebody behind the scenes. Like I know Obransky.
Yeah, clipping it real time.
Obransky who runs the box, he's not doing that, but he's one of those guys that is very good at that shit. But like maybe they have like first quarter plays, they know what's coming and they saw that timeout and they were like, okay, you know, this kid's here and they're running this exact play, and then they didn't score. They shut it down and they stopped it.
I'm sure that they have somebody real time that's cutting it, tracking it, doing a lot of that stuff. So he's smart. Like he clearly uses it well, but it is like annoying.
Funny.
It's annoying.
Fucking iPad is not.
It's like, be present, coach. Watch the
game.
Go
home and eat dinner like, one-handed, and the iPad is stuck in his hand.
Yeah. Clearly, like that's why they don't ever fucking lose ever. Like so. Georgetown, fun story. You know, I talked about it a lot last week. I don't think I need to hammer it again. Like Fulton Bateman, stud. Aiden Carroll, I just mentioned it. Like again, I just okay. So here's my question about Aiden Carroll in the pros, because I've been on this train today that the Redwoods should have had Matt Trainer, Aiden Carroll, second, third pick. Like, you know, and then revisit for like, you know, but the track record. So Baccaro and Caraway coming out of Georgetown did the exact same thing. Like went off at the end of their senior years and put together these like, I mean, Baccaro, I remember like put together absurd games, and like they lost in the quarterfinal round and he had like 6 goals, and both of them kind of like 1 year of decent lacrosse in the pros, maybe 2, and then kind of don't last. Is Aiden Carroll the next in the line of Georgetown players that like, because it's I said the problem with that school is it's too good of a fucking school, and those guys all get really good jobs, and like we haven't, you know, you got Kyle Sweetie and Brody Merrill, but these Georgetown offensive players, it's like, who's the guy that you point at that's like committed to the pro lacrosse kind of lifestyle? That'd be my that's where like maybe I do like a Sam English and a McAdory, you know, compared to an Aiden Carroll, but the way he played in this tournament was. And what I especially liked about it is he did most of his damage up top. So I feel like he's a mini in the PLL. Like he was dodging, you know, they set that pick and he goes on the right-handed sweep and he can hammer it, you know, righty lefty on the run. He was awesome. So excited to see what he does in the PLL, and like congrats to them. But Georgetown once again cannot get past the quarterfinals. You had a stat.
The stats, I had to write them down because it's a lot. But 1997 to 2007, 11 straight years making an NCAA tournament, and then they went on an 11-year drought. So they never made an NCAA tournament after 2007, and then they go back on a run 2018, missed 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then the only time they made a semifinal game was 1999. They beat Notre Dame and Duke, and they lost to Syracuse 13-9 in that semifinal game. So
like what I saw was like the comparison of them with Tillman, and these numbers aren't exactly right, but it was like Georgetown in their last 12 NCAA tournament appearances, or have made one Final Four in 12 NCAA tournament appearances, or something like that, or in quarterfinal games. Maybe that's what it was. They're 1-12 all time, or 1-11 all time in quarterfinal games. John Tillman is now 11-1 all time in quarterfinal games, and the only one he lost, there was like a ball that went in the goal that didn't get called a goal, that you could see on replay. I think it was a game against Virginia, and the ball hit like the crossbar, and then like bounced in and kicked out. So it's like you probably shouldn't have even lost that game. So like total polar opposites. Maryland just continues to be, and Tillman just continues to be the best.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the best, and right now they're the best. Like they're the program that everybody's chasing, and he's the coach that everybody's chasing, and you just can't. That game was boring as shit. Now Maryland lacrosse is unfucking watchable. So like let's throw that out there for all our Terp listeners. Like, good lord, like you guys just pass the fucking ball around like all day. Like again, it's the opposite of Cuse. It's the opposite of Cuse in every way. Like Cuse is appointment television. Can't wait to watch them. It's gonna be wild. You never know what you're gonna fucking get. There's gonna be greatness. There's gonna be absurdity. There's gonna be confusing decisions. Like everything in between. Maryland is just like they're like the safe guy at the bar. Like they're just like steady job. You know what you're gonna get. Many vices. Like they
invest your money, don't
just
spend
like,
it.
Totally. Index funds, they're like no crypto. They're just like but fuck, it works. Like it does. And especially they play to this round. They don't ride. All these other teams are like jumping in 10-man. We're talking about attackmen chasing people all the field. Maryland just subs off, drops
They do
back in
not
the
give up
hole,
transition. They
there,
do not. They do not give up transition.
No, which again, though, this just is they know who they are. Like we have a great defense, we have a great goalie. That's the strength of our team. So our entire team is gonna play to showcase that. We're gonna give up no transition. We're gonna hold the ball for a long time, which I think it doesn't get talked about enough. Like when you do that, it takes rhythm away. Like forget even the actual amount of time of possession, but like if you're Joey Spallina and you're going to this game and you're used to just high volume, and again, he's efficient, like, but like all of a sudden you get the ball, you take a little dodge, you question mark, like you ring it off a pipe, or whatever, you take a check and you throw it away, and then like Maryland goes down and has a 75-second possession, rebound, picks up the ground ball, 90 more seconds. You guys come down, maybe your midi dodges and shoots, and it's a save. Like you real quick can go like 6-7 minutes without touching the ball when you're an offensive player playing against them. So like for high volume offensive guys, it sucks. Like it really can take them out of rhythm. And then what can happen is guys start to press and try to force things because they're not feeling kind of, so like I think it's like an invisible thing, but what that does to opposing offenses besides just the great goaltending, the great defense, the way that Maryland plays offense is suffocating to great offenses that they play against. So I would do it like he's doing exactly what they should do, but it's fucking boring. Like that sitting there watching that game was just like, is anybody gonna do it?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, and Cuse doesn't want to get in that game, right? If they, depending what happens on the faceoffs, like Maryland, Georgetown went 9 of 18. Georgetown was 9 of 18. Maryland was 9 of 18 in the faceoff department. But like, you do not want to get in that game, right? If Syracuse is winning faceoffs and beating Maryland at faceoffs, you do not want to throw the fucking ball away, unforced turnovers, because they are going to go down on offense. They're going to use the whole entire clock, and they're going to put the ball probably in the back of the net or get a good opportunity. And that's where the game could get dicey if like Syracuse kills themselves, shoots them in the foot with that.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. So like, let's paint that picture, because when they played earlier in the season, it was Syracuse's first time leaving the Dome, where it's always 70 and sunny, and it's actually like 70 and gray. We've already talked about this, but it's nice in the Dome. And they went down to College Park and they played. And it was like 33 degrees and raining, and like Maryland just bullied them. Like the game was kind of competitive through 3 quarters, and then Maryland pulled away, but like Maryland was in control of the game the entire time. Now, hopefully, we're gonna have beautiful weather in Foxborough, which I think leads back a little bit
but
toward
might be
the
snowing.
Yeah, true, but I doubt it. It should be nice. Memorial Day. So I think that helps Cuse. You're not gonna have to deal with that. You know, like I guess the scenario where I think Cuse, like if you're a coach, maybe I'll pose it to you this way. If you're Gary Gate, how are you coaching your team right now? Is it we have to be us and don't worry about them, trust yourself, make plays, and you hope it's kind of an on day and we make those plays and we know that when we play free, we turn the ball over some, but we don't care because if Spalita goes 4-4 and Hiltz goes 3-2 or 4-1, we're going to score enough to win? Or do you adjust to Maryland? And do you have to say, look, we've got to be more selective about our skip passes and some of the shots we're taking. We got to be more efficient offensively or else, we're never going to see the ball again. Like that's the bigger, because like Maryland knows who they are. You know exactly who they're going to be. Will Cuse come out and be themselves? Will they play the way they played against Princeton and just say, fuck it, let's try to turn it into a shootout? Or will they like adjust who they are offensively to try to not play right into Maryland's hands of like turning the ball over in the beginning of the shot clock too many times and letting Maryland just kind of suffocate the life and the fun out of the Ramblin' Cuse
Yeah.
Orange? What do you think of that?
I think right at this stage in the game, right, you're in the Final Four, you cannot overanalyze things and just overcoach. I think you definitely need to coach to,
Yeah.
hey, we can't just piss the ball. It's like, no, make the skip passes, but like you can't just throw the fucking ball away, right? You can't throw off your back foot 30 yards across the field and throw the ball 10, 20 feet over your teammate's head. Like if they do that, they're going to lose the fucking game. Like that's a given. But at
Yeah.
this point in the game, no, Cuse, go out and be Cuse. But again,
Yeah, you got to
you
be
got to be
yourself.
yourself, because if
Yeah.
you don't,
I
if you
agree. I
try to
agree.
fully 360 change, like, hey, we're going to get the ball around, we're going to shoot with 10 seconds in the shot clock, then guys are gripping their sticks too tight, and then they are going to throw the ball out of bounds. Because
Yeah.
none of these, look, man, none of these kids have played in an NFL stadium and on this weekend. Everybody on that other team has, and it's like, that's going to be a big key of it.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, the guys on Syracuse, the personnel, they're gonna step up to the occasion. I got no doubt in that, and it's gonna be a great game. But yeah, at the end of the day, Cuse, go be Cuse and don't overanalyze it. But again, you got to touch on some things. I would probably look at some, get that defense fixed, because you can't give up 18 goals. That's just not going to work.
So you were saying before, like you thought the Penn State Cornell game was tougher to pick. I'll put Marcus, our guest host, on blast. He was in our group text saying like we should take all of our combined income and bet everything on the Terps. Like conventional wisdom says like Maryland has bullied Cuse. They look to be playing like maybe a little bit better lacrosse, but for me, like it's the same thing I've had with them all year. It's just like I'm drunk on what's possible for this
Yeah.
team. Like what if they show up and like every one of those Hilt skip passes works and Joey's dodging to score early and often and and then all of a sudden their goalie Will Mark, is that his name, or was that their old goalie?
You talking about McCool?
Their
McCool.
McCool, thank you.
Yeah.
Will Mark's their old
He got
goalie,
yanked though. Maybe we've seen this
and
other
then
kid, but we'll see.
but he was so freaking good for like 2 games in the ACC tournament. Like, what if that guy shows back
Yeah.
up? Like, and then like they have talent and they're well coached on defense. Like that they've had these games where they've had like real breakdowns like they did against Princeton, but that hasn't. At one point their defense was like number 1 in the country in like week
Yeah.
6 or something like that. Like
Yeah.
so like it's just so hard for me not to be like, you could just like go down the list and be like Maryland, but then it's like there's this part of me that's like, but like if Cuse does all these things that they haven't done all at the same time, they might be the best team in the country.
Yeah.
Like so, I'm still, I don't know. I'm still just so I'm like a mosquito with a fucking light with them. I'm just like, ooh, like I bet they do it. And there is a part of me like, and this is sincere, that wants to see the Joey Spallina interview after they win the national championship. That's like really like
Fuck you.
everybody. Like, yeah, like I like I kind of like, give me a Long Island attack me with a fuck you
Yeah.
attitude. Like again, I was saying there isn't anybody on Maryland that does that, but you
I mean,
cannot.
there
You
is a
cannot
kid on
play like
Maryland
you
that,
have.
I mean, another clip I'd be playing to the kids is the one where they were like, "This isn't the dome," when they beat them down, and there's like, "This ain't the dome." I'd be sending that clip out once a day at like just random times, like
True.
2 in the
No,
morning.
I
If
mean,
I'm Gary
Maryland
Gate, I'm
fucking
waking up,
bullied them.
just setting my alarm at 2 a.m. and just waking up and sending that clip out. Like, this ain't the fucking dome, calling you guys a bunch of you know what. But like, yeah,
There's a high likelihood that this game will end Maryland will have won 14-9. It'll have never been close, and it'll just be like, what? Why did anybody think there was any fucking chance
Yeah.
that this Q's team was going to win the game? Because like Maryland is just so predictable in that they're going to show up and play good.
Yeah,
So
and the Cuse Cornell, like
it's gonna be
the
interesting.
Cuse Cornell storyline, like a part of me, right? I don't want to bet against the Terps because again, Tillman and Bernhardt coaching that defense, but like another part of me wants Cuse to win because I want Cornell to win, and I want it to be a Cuse Cornell national championship because like the storylines of that game, like the clips, the highlights of
Yeah, in Foxborough
Cody
where the last one
Jamison, the
happened. Yeah,
Kenny Mims, the Abbott, Max Seaball, like Cornell had that game won, and then they make that mistake at the end of the game, and which is an absolute disaster. But it'd be cool
yep.
to see like that game happen, whichever way it goes, right? Cuse, Cornell can't beat Cuse, and then Cornell gets its redemption from I don't even know what year that was, but that was like what
Yeah, 2009. That was my senior
2009.
year of high
But that was a
school.
crazy.
Was at that game.
But that'd be cool to see that storyline.
Yeah, it would. There's a lot of history in Maryland Cornell too. There was a 1976 national championship, Mike French,
Oh,
that went to overtime, and Maryland scored first, but it was not sudden death. And then Cornell scored twice and won the
you can
championship.
find
There's some
that's
lacrosse
gonna be your
history. I know that
job.
because
That's gonna be your job to find that highlight.
my father, I've got it. My dad was in
Let's
that
get
game,
it up.
and our friends over at Adam Gittleman has some good tape type of that,
Oh
so
yeah.
we can flash that up there. So okay, so just in closing, I mean, we talked in depth. Yeah, your Final Four was worse than mine, for
Ohio
sure.
State,
Because I
Duke.
think I had Cuse, Maryland.
Yeah,
I think I had Cuse, Maryland, and Cornell all
and
accurate.
you
I
had
think I maybe
Ohio.
had
I think you
Ohio
had Ohio
State
State.
instead of Penn State.
Yeah,
So credit to me,
you beat me.
75%. That's right on par with my C that says C, not a C plus, but C in school. What do you? Who's your national championship? Who's your national championship game, and who's your winner?
I'm going Cornell, Cuse, and I'm going Cornell national
Wow,
championship.
he just like that, he
I
turns.
can't. I've been talking
He
shit
picks the
about the number.
orange.
I've been talking shit about the
Who are
number
you?
one the whole year. I can't fucking be a puss here and say go with the Terps. I hate betting against the Terps because they're probably gonna win. But I want to see a Cuse Cornell national championship. So I'm gonna go. I think Cornell. I think both of these games are 1-goal games. I think the Cuse Maryland game could be a 2-goal game, but these games are going to be very, very close, and they're going to come down to the final minutes.
Okay, so for me, I think it's going to be Cornell, Maryland, and Cornell is going to end up, finding the way through and winning it. I think that, I think ultimately, again, as much as I kind of want it to be Cuse, I think trust your eyes. Who have they been all season? Like you got to go with the more consistent team. Is kind of what I've said and been saying. I've already said why I think Cornell gets Penn State. I think Penn State's really good, but I just think the fact that they beat them and the way that they beat them and the way that Cornell kind of got past that scare, I think we're going to see Cornell's. Here's a pick. I think we're going to see Cornell's best game in the semifinals. The best game they've played all season is going to be the
Tough
semifinal
weekend.
game against Penn
You played in
State.
it. It's a tough weekend.
And then in the national championship game, I just don't know that Maryland's that style. I don't. So the same kind of playbook that you could draw up for Cuse. Like, can you break through this defense and score enough to where you can kind of now take advantage of Maryland's lack of firepower on offense? I just think Cuse turns the ball over a little bit too much to be able to do that. They give too many free possessions. To me, Cornell's built to capitalize on where Maryland struggles, which is Cornell, I do think, has the horsepower to score on Maryland, and I think they can do it more efficiently. And then I just don't know. Like Cornell's defense isn't great, but I just don't know if Maryland really has the game style and the offensive horses like take advantage of that weakness. Like I don't know that Maryland's offense is better than Richmond's was. It's so now their defense I think is better, even though Richmond's was very good. So I just think like in a lot of ways Cornell's almost like a slightly better version of Cuse, where it's like they're really offensive heavy, they're really talented, they just play slightly more efficiently, than Cuse does, and I think that might be the difference that gets Cornell over the hump. And I think we see Busick, youngest head coach in Division I lacrosse, raise the trophy, and the first time for Cornell in a long time. And like, I don't know when it might have been that 76 team. Like it's been a long time since that program has won it. So Lots of fun storylines. Can't wait to watch, and we'll be back next week to recap it all. Probably maybe a little bit later in the week episode. We'll see, just given that the national championship game is Monday, and then we'll be full blown
Can't
PLL
wait.
after that. It will be in training camp week and diving right in. So that'll be fun. We'll get into hopefully a lot less of us just guessing and assuming things and not knowing people's names. And we might actually
I'm gonna
sound
know
like
the
we know
whole
what we're talking
lineups. I'm gonna
about.
know
So
the coaches. I'm gonna know just everything. It's gonna be great. Can't wait. Episode 60 is a
well,
wrap.
thanks for bearing with me in my sick
Yeah,
game,
get better, man.
my Jordan
Fluids,
flu game.
hydrate.
But
Don't get
hey,
Sky sick.
at least I show up. At least I show up.
Peace.
Peace.